Hello everybody, my name is Shael. Earlier today I spoke about false prophets and false teachers. So today my brother in Christ, God bless him and his family and his ministry, in the name of Yeshua the Christ and the one true God, spoke about and he read out of the book of Jude, which sort of coincided with what I said. So I'm going to leave you a link to Brother Pastor D's ministries and his teachings, because he's reading out of the official Geneva, Bible, with the book of Jude. So in the book of Jude, we see that Jude says, "Some of the wicked men have come among you in secret. They have changed the grace of God as an excuse for their wicked behavior. They deny our only Master and Lord, Yeshua the Christ. Long ago, God warned that he has judgment against people that are like this." Now what Jude is trying to say is that these are false teachers. They may have traveled from place to place back then, but they were amongst Jude and his readers. So nobody noticed when they came among them. Their wrong ideas were a danger to the faith. These were the errors in their teaching. They were talking wrong, taking advantage of God's mercy. They used it in a way that they liked. They were some of the Christians that Paul had mentioned in Romans chapter 6 verse 1, when he said that they say God's love forgives. So wicked behavior makes it possible for God to show them more grace. They denied Yeshua by the way they lived. They thought that they were superior to the other Christians because of the knowledge that they held, or because of who they were. In other words, you wake up, you find out you're Hebrew, you're no special than anybody else because of who you are or the speciality. Okay, you get judged and everything is futile in the end, such as Solomon said. This is what he is trying to say. So in order to make themselves feel special, the false teachers did everything in a wicked and a foul way. And even the ones that weren't of the nation, they came in and tricked everybody to try to take hold of it. Now this has been going on way before Yeshua. It was going on in the Old Testament, and Jude was bringing what was going on amongst the Christian community. As we also saw, Jude said, "You know all these stories, but you remain of them," such as the story in Egypt. When Moses had took them out of Egypt, he explains of the Exodus and them coming out and being in slavery. Now, one good example is when Yeshua, the Christ, was sitting here talking to someone, and he said, "Aren't you in slavery now?" Meaning that you're in a financial slavery because they have Pharisees and King Herod and the taxes and everything. He said, "No, I'm not in slavery. What are you talking about?" Jesus said, don't you remember our forefather Moses in the slavery in the Exodus out of Egypt? Well, that doesn't have anything, and the guy never remembered, so Jesus had went into it more. That's when he said, "Well, don't you know that what would you do if something about your slave master smiting you in your face by saying you will go back into slavery again in the future?" This is where Deuteronomy states that you will get brought back into Egypt, but by slave ships into another land called Egypt, with oaks of iron around your neck. And if you know anything about history, those two obelisks, one Carnegie back in the days took out of Egypt and put in London, and the other was taken. No, Carnegie took out of Egypt and put in Central Park in New York City, and the other one is in London. Deuteronomy spoke about this before it happened. So did Yeshua when he tried to forewarn them. Now, Jesus also used his death as an exodus or a departure. Luke chapter 9:31 speaks about this, where he says that he would rescue his people from evil, but the lack of trust and faith in him will lead to the Father in heaven's judgment. We also see where Jude breaks down how terrible, for they have followed Cain's example, Balaam's error, and disobeyed God as Korah did. Now, what are these examples? What did these three people do? Cain was a murderer. Cain was not just a murderer of the flesh, he was the murderer of the spirit. He hated God so much that anything that represented the religion or the one true God, he murdered it, or he got rid of it, or he falsified it. Same way we see false teachers and prophets do today. What did Balaam do? Balaam was so greedy that Balaam took King Balak's word, all right, over money, over greed and money, and made the Hebrew Israelites sin against the laws of God. And what did Korah did? Korah was proud and of a jealous spirit. So, out of jealousy, out of proudness, out of greed, out of murderers, such as Esau's seed shall live by the fruit of the land by the sword, is what we see today. Those characteristics are what we're seeing in the religion to get us off of the path of righteousness. I've heard a non-denominational church that's in Manhattan tell rich people that they need to give up all their money to them and let them handle it, because it's not their money, it belongs to God. So they are God's accountant and they're going to handle all the rich people's money for God. This is getting out of hand. Find out who you are. I left a link so you can furthermore read the book of Jude with Pastor D. God bless.